Hi everyone, Andrew Williams from Remote Tribe here. We're a remote working travel blog and a digital nomad platform, and we're helping people living a global lifestyle. We're here with lawyer expert Mo, and we're going to be talking today about a very interesting topic called 5 tax questions for freelancers and solopreneurs who want to live offshore. And this is a question we get quite often because it's very hard to navigate all the intricacies of setting up global businesses and residencies and stuff like that. So we're going to go through the most common questions, and I will let Mo introduce himself, and he's probably one of the best experts to talk about this issue.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks so much for inviting me back to the podcast. It's been a pleasure always helping digital nomads and remote workers. My name is Mohammed Abu Shanab, and you can always call me Mo, an international lawyer. I hold a couple of citizenship and residency in 8+ countries, and I've done business with more than 50+ countries. And I always help digital nomads, global citizens, and remote workers achieve their financial freedoms through lowering their taxes or having multiple bases in different countries.
Great, thanks for the intro, Mo. So looking forward to talk more about the growing trend of digital nomads and remote workers. So I think we all know that the office is kind of going away and more people are working from different locations all over the world. I was just wondering, what's your take on the trend? Is it still there? What kind of feedback do you get from your clients on remote working?
I mean, it's like it was very rare that someone worked remotely before the lockdown, the pandemic, as everyone knows. But we see in 2023, there's some major companies trying to come up not fully 100% remote, but they're coming with a new idea about to be hybrid or semi-hybrid, to give their employees like a couple of days in the office and then a couple of days as remote. I mean, they are trying to create like a local base. They're trying to force the employees to stay in the city where the business is. And instead of them, for example, if the company is based in New York or California or London or a very other metropolitan hub all around the world, and instead that they go to low-cost locations or offshore locations, when they will be able to work as hybrid, they have to stay close to the office. So some companies successfully do this, and some companies still like the idea of being fully remote. And I think the main reason for this because there is a lot of pricing going down for the office, for the buildings, and you can say the commercial space. Yes, exactly. Yes. There's a capital push from you can say from tycoons to reuse the office in different locations. That's maybe the hybrid. They try to create something in between.
And then on the other hand, you've got people who want more freedom, they want to have more time with the family, so they're fighting back and they're trying to take as much time as possible from that working week and work from anywhere or work from home, basically, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, yeah, I mean, also people, I think, discovered a lot of travel opportunities with this kind of lifestyle, which, you know, is part of the push again that we just mentioned. I think another reason why people take advantage of this lifestyle is because they can do the geo arbitrage on the currency and then on the low prices compared to the place where they used to live or where they registered. So I think that's another interesting argument why people want to know what to do when it comes to taxes if they want to live in another country and take advantage of this geo arbitrage. So Mo, what's the tax situation right now for freelancers and solopreneurs and remote entrepreneurs? So I mean, what's the most common issue you see and the most common questions you get?
I mean, the first thing is for anyone who would like to work remotely or start his life as a digital nomad, that he find a location and then he actually move himself from his home country, whatever it's like UK, US, Canada or Europe, and then he moved to like low-cost location like Thailand, Philippines, Turkey, Latin America, or any other jurisdiction. And he continue paying the same taxes that he used to do before he moved. He just actually moved himself. That's it. He have done nothing else. He's just trying to explore the idea.
He still figures in in that country as a resident, and it's looking like he lives there.
Yes, that's the stage one. That's I think everyone have to go through this stage because changing this tax status or residency, it's need a mindset change. Not everyone is accepting that.
And it's more
Like,
than leaving the country and just physically relocating. You have to do the paperwork and you have to inform authorities to make sure that you have a nice exit.
yes, from the meetings I do always with my clients and even the partner networks I work with, they have a fear of telling the local authority that they are going to a different country or they're changing this tax status, because they fear that they will do this, they can inspect them or ask them for audit, or they can ask them to pay huge tax sums to go to a different location, or they don't understand the system itself. They think that they are doing something wrong. When you have a mindset or bias that when you play the rules or try to take advantage of a different rule in a different country, you have like a fear inside you that I'm doing something wrong, so I will not be able to do it. I can keep paying more taxes just to feel more comfortable, even if I don't use the country anymore.
I was saying that I met a lot of people here in Asia where I'm right now that are in this situation. They're still registered in Europe, for example, and they come here, they travel for 6 months, but actually, the governments don't know and they're afraid to tell the authorities because exactly what you said.
Yeah, that's the issue. It's the mindset, the bias, and the fear. If you change your mindset and just think I'm not doing anything wrong, you will lose the fear, but you will save a lot of money.
And it's also good to have friends or acquaintances that are lawyers that can help and guide. It's always good to have these kind of people around you. So yeah, we're happy to help. If you guys have any questions, please just leave us a comment or get in touch on email. So Mo, I think it's time to differentiate now between what's a profession, so as a freelancer, and what's a business actually. So can you explain us the difference between a profession, which can be, like, I don't know, an engineer or like a programmer, and the business, which is a whole different entity?
I will give an example as myself. I'm a lawyer. I practice law, for example, in the US, and I have a license to practice law in one of the states. I can, if you come to me for advice, I can tell you I have to use my law. You can say um, I will practice law as an individual, and I will send you the invoice as my name and location, and you pay me directly. That's a profession. Could be that I'm acting like a freelancer. So I can be the freelancer doing graphics. I can do like telemedicine. I can do
Even
podcasting.
consulting, yeah,
Whatever,
consulting for
whatever.
clients, yeah, exactly. So I
That's
think
I mean,
in the UK
that's a
they call that how is it called, Mo? Please remember.
self-employed.
Self-employed or
Yes,
sole trader, I think,
also a
yes.
trader. Yes, yes.
And
I'm registered. I mean, there is a difference between self-employed and sole trader. Sole trader is someone doing a business, but he doesn't actually have a company.
okay,
Okay, he's not. He convert his himself into an one person company, but he doesn't have a limited company. That's
okay.
according to the HMRC rules. Self-employed is a different when you say I'm Mohammed or I'm Mo or I'm Andrew, and I will do business as myself, but I will not consider myself as a business. I will just collect money from people. They will pay me into my personal bank account,
Personal
and
background,
any
yeah.
money paid in this, that's considered an income to the business.
So
So I'm
there is
self-employed.
basically no separation between a
No.
business and yourself. You are the business and you're also
Yes.
liable for everything you invoice, right?
Exactly, and this is a very you can do this. It's a very common in the UK. If you are you can say one man van. You have a van, or you are just doing one-off consultations, or you are providing any. You can say not a regular business, a small business that not more than you can say 25K or 50K maximum, because it's the same as you are working for a company. There's no headaches. But if your
Yeah.
business growing more than the 50K, whatever it's sterling or dollars or euro, you need to have a proper structure. You need to have an LLC, you need to have a limited company, you need to have a free zone, you need to have a business structure where the liability of the business will not be personal liability. That's the first thing. And the second thing, you will be able to use a lot of tax incentives and trade as a business, not as a profession. That's the difference between running a business or just doing a profession.
Absolutely. So you're saying that you are more exposed as a professional if you invoice from one certain amount upwards, and then you would suggest that people set up their own company, or limited company or whatever, which is separate from their own identity, so they keep them separate to avoid headaches and complications in the future.
Yes, definitely. That's
So,
that's the
so,
way
so Mo,
forward.
what's the equivalent of sole trader and self-employed in the US? Do you know how they're called for our audience?
I mean, you in the US you can register something called one member LLC. Okay, that's
Yeah.
it's a limited liability company, but it's only have one member. You,
Okay.
just yourself, and instead of you trading as Mo or as a lawyer or the accountant, whatever. So you will be trading under a business name, even if the business name is yours. It doesn't matter. Okay.
And okay, so more than what would you suggest to a freelancer or someone who's self-employed to actually start an offshore company to pay obviously pay low tax, but also to differentiate himself and protect himself from all the liabilities of being sued or not paying the taxes in time and all that stuff. So when is that moment when, like moment zero, when someone has to say, okay, it's time for me to create a company?
I will give three examples. If your business is more than 50K, whatever sterling, dollars, or euro, have a business. Start. Don't use yourself as a profession. Don't trade as an individual. I will give three examples. The first example, a British guy who's lived in UK all his life, and he started doing business more than 50K. The first and easy thing he can do just to protect himself, register the limited company in the UK and trade all the business from the UK company. You need to have a business bank account, register with the HMRC as a business. That's not the best tax structure, but this is the start. It's
Yeah.
much better than trading himself. If in the US he registered an LLC company, or if he is non-US citizen and he's doing business anywhere, he can register an LLC company. That will be more tax efficient for him anywhere. It will be much cheaper and easier ongoing. And the last option, if you have the enough resources to go and register like a free zone company or offshore company, as we have discussed before, you can register like a company in Dubai or the United Arab Emirates where you pay zero tax, but it have a more structure and cost. It costs more at the beginning, but it's very cost effective at the
Long term.
running through tax structure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess there's a different mindset when it comes to, it's like a different life. So before you were acting as a self-employed, and then you're considering registering your own company, and then you actually do it. So there is definitely a mindset shift. So how should people work on that, and what's your advice on the mindset of having your own company, obviously an accountant, because things get a bit more serious, right? So what should people know when they open up that new company and they split from their own person?
It's a learning curve. It's not easy at the beginning. I will not pretend that it will be milk and honey. No, it will take some time to shift your understanding that you will have a different bank account than your personal bank account, and all the payments will go through this business bank account, and the money in the business bank account is not yours. It's that's the, like you
That's
can
one,
say.
one, one big takeaway, I think, yes.
Yes,
You
that's
have to be
that
very
that's
careful how you spend the company's money because you can't really spend on anything you want.
Yes, that's it. But once you do it like a couple of months, you will understand the process. That's the hard part. But the easy part is that it will be. It's not just about the protection or the liability, but it will give you the mentality that how to grow your business, how to have contractors, employees, how to pay expenses. If you are traveling a lot, you can use, we discussed about this before, but if you can use a lot of the payments and the travel expenses on the business itself. So that's huge tax saving. That will be able to have a better cash flow. If you're trying to do anything, not just the expenses, but running the business itself will be much easier. And one thing is that you don't actually have to deal with humans anymore. You don't have to go to an accountant and sign with him. I mean, all the services related to companies have been digitized. You can just go, you can install like have a software like Zero. You can link it to an online accountant who doesn't have an office here. So all the back end services you need to get the company up and
That's
running
great news.
have been digitized. You don't
Yeah,
have
that's
to
great news
think
because
that
that means you don't have to meet the accountant in person. You can have a video
no.
call if you have any questions. You can send all the data through Xero. Everything has gotten really much easier.
Yeah,
Indeed.
I actually run the business 100% remotely and use all the back end as a remote base without having actually to go to accountants or lawyers or pay heft. It's the fees now is very low to get your company
And,
up and running. Yeah.
and also it's great because you talked a lot about the back end, but the front end has been solved. So you've got a lot of brokers that can open companies in the UK for you, even if you're not a citizen. You've got brokers opening companies for you in the US, like the LLC, and you don't have to be a resident. It's about $250. In the UK, it's about I think 50 or 60 pounds. So it's getting extremely accessible to open up a business, and especially a one-man business. Now with AI. I'm pretty sure a lot of people will start even more companies because it's becoming easier to be a one-man army where you can deliver a lot in shorter time with the help of AI and doing the graphics and the content and even like basic documents. You can use AI to do like Excel formulas and you can use it to help you write code. So it's going to get much faster and the companies are going to shrink even more, I believe, in my opinion. And we're going to see a lot of solopreneurs coming strong.
That's right. I would like just to add that if you use this ready-made services that you can have the company and the accounts and the business, that's for the standard setup. But if you have a complex setup or you would like to go to a low tax jurisdiction country or going offshore, always ask for advice. We are here help you to provide you like long-term solution and even short-term. The ready-made companies which start from 50 sterling or dollars or 250 from the US, they just give you the basic minimum. They don't advise you how to uh, take
Structure
the
your
structure.
business
Yes,
globally, for
that's it.
example.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
So
That
yeah.
if you are making more than 100K or 150 or 200, I always advise you to get a human-based advice because the amount of money you will put on the advice will be beneficial on the long term. And one of the things that I've seen my clients, they go and register a limited company in the UK or go and register an LLC in the US. That's 250 whatever it's cost, and then they got into troubles, and in order to solve the troubles, it will cost them thousands of dollars or sterlings to fix it because it was not set up properly from day one.
Correct.
That's the thing.
Correct. It's always worth consulting an advisor if if you've got already like a successful business, or if you want to merge some companies or create a holding, or just open a new one and close the old ones. There's a lot of complexity behind. So I think, as you're saying, Mo, I don't think it makes sense for someone to open up companies in different countries just for the sake of opening them up. So just make sure that once you're taking the first step, you take it right. Do the research and talk to professionals, I would say. Sure.
That's right. That's right.
Sure. Great. So going forward, Mo, we were supposed to talk about the five most interesting questions you get for freelancers and taxes. So maybe you can tell us what they are, and how should people deal with them.
I mean, the most common question is the first question I receive always is that, do my home country will come after me if I go to another country or pay less taxes? What kind of harm that will happen? Or do I be if I set up an offshore or outside my country? Can I come back? What's the process itself? Do I have to move my all the money I have in the bank accounts in the US or the UK or Europe to, for example, Dubai or Singapore or Mauritius or Cayman Island, or I need to keep the money there? How to structure myself? I have I have like a already investment in my home country. Do I need to move all the investment to a different jurisdiction? Or this is all the questions that people mainly ask and they say they think that it's a very complex. My advice for all this question is just very simple. you don't actually have to do everything at once. I mean, it's moving itself is a complicated process. Take it step by step and start by the easier. The easier here is to base yourself in different location and then see the options available for you, because each one is different if you are a US citizen or non-US. Because we have seen other countries, like even like Australia now, trying to have a global tax strategy like the US, so they will start taxing their nationals whatever they are based. So you have to be ready or understanding the short term and the long term strategy for you.
I think that that's a other long topic we can discuss about
Yes.
another show. But Mo, what can you tell us about the American citizens or the US citizens that want to move around the world and live around the world? How should they optimize their tax? Because the US is one of the countries that taxes their citizens wherever they are in the world, so people have to pay double taxation, right? So what would be a few pieces of advice you can give to US citizens on how to do the move, and especially when they're out of the country for a long time?
I mean, the first thing for any US citizen, do they hold another citizenship or no? If the, for example, because I've worked with many clients who I call them accidental Americans. He was born in the US for a reason and he got the US passport, but he actually never been there. He never lived. He doesn't have any relation with the US. He could be an Irish, he could be British, he could be Arab or whatever. So if you have the option to re-announce your citizenship, US, do it if you don't need it. But if you have family or investment or property, don't do it, because that's a very risky, and you need to have alternatives. That's a
Okay,
that's a
and then for
base.
someone who wants to keep their American citizenship but wants to pay less tax as they travel the world, what would you advise for that?
There's different strategies for them. The first thing, there is a lot of something called foreign income reliefs that you will be able to claim as long as you are not living in the UK, sorry, in the US, continuously, permanently. If you lived outside the US and you tell the IRC that I'm no longer US resident, you will be able to claim foreign income relief. That's the first thing.
And how,
That's
how
the
much is,
easiest.
how much is that? Is it like a fixed amount per year?
Yes, it's around 100k plus, something like this. It's not a large amount, but it's something that you can start with.
Yeah.
That's the minimum thing everyone can do. There's no, you just need to fill a
There's
form
no
and
barriers. You
yes,
just have to
as
fill in the
long
papers.
yes, as long as you're not footing the soil back in the US during certain amount. That's
And
it.
I'm guessing you have to prove, you need copy of your flight tickets, accommodation. You need to build a dossier. Yeah.
Yes, it's a case by case, but it's a very straightforward. There is millions of US citizens or expats who live in different countries. So that's the first thing they can do. Okay.
Okay.
The second thing, if you have a foreign spouse, if your partner is not an American citizen and you live with them in a different country, you can claim also. You can lower your taxes, global tax, as because you don't have a non-US foreign partner. That's the second thing.
That's great.
Okay, that. The third thing you can do, you have an LLC and you run the business as a business structure instead of running or as W2 employee, as an employee, or you are paying all the income or the expenses through your personal bank account. Just have a different entity. That's it. That's the three simplest thing any US citizen can do.
Okay, and for non-US citizens, let's say Europeans, South Americans that travel around the world and they really don't live that much in Europe, what options do they have to lower their taxes?
If you are an EU citizen and you still need to operate from the EU, use one of the countries that have a very low tax, like Cyprus or Malta. You can consider Estonia. It's not the lowest. You can go for Ireland. That's one of the countries that their tax jurisdiction is very low, but still in the EU system.
And we're
Okay.
talking about the company tax, the corporate tax,
That's
right?
the corporate tax. You can move all the income will go through an EU company and do it through low tax EU country. If you still
Correct.
need to bound by the EU, because there's different. If you don't bother or you don't have a EU, you don't need to stay in the EU, because EU is an ecosystem for it. So if you still need to do business or need to have a EU registered business, move the business or your registration as the tax to low tax jurisdiction in the EU states.
And
That's
then
the easiest.
the personal residency where you have to pay a personal tax is another story, correct?
That's another story. We talk about that. I mean, there's also options to move. Malta have a program for the EU nationals to lower the taxes. Portugal have an option also.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cyprus have an option, and there's two more countries, Italy and Greece. They're coming with new tax reliefs for EU citizens to move to Italy and Greece, but you need to do it properly. Okay, that's one of the. They are not very, you can say, very well not. They have a special tax relief for EU citizens who would like to really cut themselves into these two countries here, as a person,
Okay,
not as a business.
that's actually a good advice. So if you want to do business in Europe, make sure you register your company in a low tax country. You've got Cyprus, you've got Malta, Ireland is another good choice. That's great. And obviously we can operate the country from wherever you are in the world. If you've got European clients, you can invoice them wherever you are in the world. You don't have to go there. You've got your company set up, working nicely. You're in touch with your accountants, and you just focus on your business. So you play it safe. That's great, Mo. So, how about the local tax where freelancers actually work? So, should they be worried about doing business, like living in one country and doing business from another? That's back to the subject we talked about on where you should register your company in Europe. So, let's assume you've got a European person living in legally, right, living somewhere in Thailand or in Indonesia, I don't know, and they have a company in Europe, and they invoice there to the European clients, but are they obliged to pay taxes in Thailand and Indonesia? So how should people look into that? Do you really have to pay? Because a lot of people work on the visa, on the tourist visa, right? So that's how they live there, and they operate their company and work from a tourist visa, which is not really okay as far as I know.
It's that's one of the, you can say, misinformation about how you can operate yourself. But let's differentiate here between when you invoice your clients or you do business as a business, the first thing you have to pay taxes on the business itself. That's whatever the company is based. If it's based in Malta, you have to pay the taxes in Malta. If it's based in Cyprus, you have to pay the taxes in Cyprus. If it's based in Dubai, you can pay the taxes in Dubai, whatever taxes.
So company taxes have to be paid no matter where you are in the world.
Yes, that's the thing. I mean, there's one thing here I can add. For example, there's a news about the UE that they come with a new 9% tax, but this will not apply for anyone. But it's called tax. If it's sometimes you need to pay zero tax, but it's actually tax, even if you're not paying anything. That's actually tax. So you don't have to. You have to understand the difference between, even if you're not paying anything, it's actually at the end that's called tax in front of your home country authority. That's for the business. Okay. The second thing is that your personal tax. If you live in Thailand and you don't have actual official residence, that you're using the tourist residency, you're not legally tax resident in Thailand, so you don't have to pay anything.
Okay, so
Okay,
that's easy.
that's easy. But if that's for the short term, that's, I always call it short term. If you are you can slow nomad or fast nomad, and you keep moving between countries, you are not actually follow the rules to stay in a place. At least minimum is 180 days. That's the standard in different, most of the world is you need to continue to stay in the place at least 6 months, so you can consider yourself legally tax resident in this place. Okay.
Okay, so that there is a difference there between people who travel often, they shouldn't worry too much, and people who actually kind of settle in Bali, for example, for
Yeah.
6 months to 1 year, then things get a bit more complicated. So what about that case, Mo, when you live more than 180 days in a country like Indonesia or Thailand or anything like that?
There's different structure for this. I have another podcast with with the British citizen who actually moved from the UK to Bali, and he is married to a local citizen from Bali. So we have a different structure. He registered a local company in Indonesia, and they have a special low cost or low tax company in Bali. Okay,
Yeah.
he is not an Indonesian citizen yet. He have a legal resident to stay in the country. Okay, and he moved his tax resident from the UK to Bali, and he pay only the income. I mean, Bali only they have different structure for. I mean, most of the Asian country they don't have. They only tax you on the money that you bring into your on the local country. If you example Philippines or
So if you
Thailand
do
or
business, if
Indonesia.
you do business in that country, but
Yes.
what you have income from other countries, like your the country where you set up your residency or you have the company in?
There's different. If you for example, if you have a US company and you use the and you do all the business transaction from the US company, you don't have to pay local taxes in the Asian country. They will not
Okay.
tax you here. But if you move, for example, $1,000 from the US account to your personal account in Indonesia, they will not tax you because this money was
It's not
generated outside Indonesia.
correct.
Okay.
That makes sense. And a lot of
Okay.
countries operate like that, which is pretty
Yes,
straightforward.
yes. Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines. Most of the Asian countries, the Southeast Asian countries, they don't tax you on the money that you done outside their home
So,
country,
but
outside the countries.
they do tax the money created in the country, and I think it's called
Yes,
taxation at source, if I'm not
yes,
mistaken.
yes. That's a different. If you and here the different. If you are freelance and providing consultation services from a US company, you don't have to pay taxes in Thailand or Philippines or in Indonesia. But if you open a local entity in Philippines or Thailand, whatever the Asian country that you are, and you start giving uh, business to local to the local country itself, and you have a local bank account, you have to pay VAT, you have to pay local taxes, you have to follow the rules and regulations, and you will be bound by the like the nationals, the locals. There was no difference between you and the others, and that's the same everywhere.
Yeah. So more how about the case when you want to hire locals to do maybe like digital work for you, and you're paying them from your entity, your company entity in Europe or the US, but you hire locals. What about that case?
If your for example the US entity will hire these freelancers or contractors from the US and you pay them from the US, you don't have to pay anything local
Yeah,
because
but
you don't
if you
have a local
hire,
entity.
okay, but if you hire Indonesian people and pay them from the US bank account, is that
There,
even possible? And what about that?
there's different solution for this. You can use there's global companies like Deal or Globalization where they offer you to hire foreign nationals, and they already have a setup in most of the countries in the world. They have a local entity, and you do a deal with them. You have like an agreement with them. You pay them a monthly fee, and they pay your local
You're like
foreign.
a intermediary third party
Yes,
that
yes,
will
yes.
kind of also you outsource the services through them somehow.
It's called global payroll instead of
Global
you
payroll.
running them. Yes, and they take care of the taxes, the rules and regulation, contracting and everything. But this is not for everyone. This is only if you are hiring long term. If you are hire them for one off or using like platforms like Upwork or Fiverr,
Yeah.
you don't have to use intermediate. If you need an full-time employee who will be doing full-time or even part-time but long-term, you need to have an intermediary who can use them or follow the rules and regulation of the country.
Correct. That makes sense. That makes sense, Mo. Thanks a lot. Anything else about freelancers and solopreneurs that are just starting, for example, and they don't know where to look at? Like, what would you advise them to look at? What kind of maybe jurisdictions and what's the mindset when they start creating their own company? They want to go big, but obviously it's going to take years until they do that. So how should they start?
The easiest thing they can do if they if they are operating an online business, whatever they're providing service through like Upwork or Fiverr, or they're using like an online services like Stripe or whatever, all this platform give you the option to run your business as an individual, for example, as Mo, or if you have an entity, a local entity, you can run them as the business itself. So use this option. Register a business, even if your home country, just to start this and inform your platform or the tool that you use online. I'm doing the business as business. It's a limited company or LLCC company, or it's a business. It's not myself anymore. The tax structure will be different, but will give you the first mindset that it's much better to run a business as a business instead of individuals. And that's the difference between a profession and a business.
Correct, and I think people should take this seriously as well. I think they should look into the implications if they want to live globally and have like a global lifestyle, like we do, for example. They should look at where they want to live, which countries or which countries, where they want to set up their company, where they want to be registered as a taxpayer, for example. And also, like if they're traveling a lot during a year, if they don't travel that much, if they want to have like a second, third home base, they should look into all this. Like try to create a mini plan for their lifestyle, and then talk to a professional, or at least start creating a company, start doing business, start making some money, and then going through this plan and start working on it. Because
Yeah,
in my
definitely.
opinion, I think it's getting easier now to have a global lifestyle. You've got global payroll, you've got you can set up companies in the US and you don't have to be there. You've got digital nomad visas. There's so many things coming up now, and I think we really live great times where you can choose. Mostly if you have a good passport, but it's great that you can choose where you can live. There are different ways of living, short-term, long-term, multiple entities you can create, low tax companies. So it's getting very accessible to a lot of people. Before, it was harder. You needed armies of accountants. It was more centralized. You needed to know inside information on how people do it and the right accountants. But I think now it's getting a bit easier. And I think you can focus more as a solopreneur or freelancer. You can actually now really focus on the business and outsource everything you can when it comes to taxes and residencies and even passports.
Yes, definitely. I can add here a couple of points. It's we can have another episode about what you can do if you have a restricted passport. If you have a passport, for example, in India, Pakistan, or from African countries, Arab countries, where you don't
Low
have a
scoring
visa.
passports, let's call them,
Yes,
yes.
yes. If you don't have access visa free to many countries, what is the alternatives you can do, and what are the options you can have to build your portfolio, whatever you would like to acquire citizenship, or you would like to get a residency, or have a portfolio where you get instantly access to different countries instead of going through the normal visa process.
It
That's
is a
one
very
thing.
interesting topic, and I'm also asked, especially by people in Asia, because some passports are not very strong here. So, for example, the Filipino passport, where I am right now, I was talking to some locals, is pretty hard to travel. The Vietnamese passport is not very strong. So, I think we will do a dedicated show for passports and the second passport. We're going to look at the rankings, and we're going to talk a bit about a few strategies on how to get a second passport and build up your passport portfolio, which is sounds really cool.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
All right, Mo. Thanks a lot for all the information in this podcast. We're going to be back with another episode. Until then, please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Get in touch. Follow us on social media. I'm going to put all the links in the description. Stay safe and safe travels, and enjoy.
Yeah, thanks so much, and always stay global, my friends. Take care. Bye bye.